covalent bond. Let us study the covalent bond. Now, before moving into the details of how the covalent bonds are formed, let us first understand the molecules which are having covalent bonds. Those are called covalently bonded molecules. And also, first let us understand the properties which are associated with these bonds. The first of all, those molecules which are having covalent bond, they may be existing in the, they can exist in the solid state, but they can also exist in the liquid or in the gaseous state. This is very contradictory to, completely opposite to what we have in the case of ionic compound, ionic solids or ionic bonded solids, because in case of ionic bonded solids we can only have them in the solid state, whereas covalently bonded solids can be existing in solid, liquid or in the gaseous state. Another important thing, usually their melting points and boiling points are not very high, though we have certain very different kind of covalently bonded solids like diamond and graphite, whose melting points and boiling points are very, very high. But other than these, normally like we have simple molecules, their melting points and boiling points are not usually very high. Another important thing, since they don't have charges, they are poor conductors of heat and electricity. They have what? Rigid structures. Why they have rigid structures? Because they are formed by the overlapping of the orbitals, which are actually directional in nature. So they acquire certain fixed what? Directions or shapes, and due to these shapes they become what? They have a three-dimensional shapes or geometry or structures, and they have rigid bonds. They have rigid systems. Another important thing which is associated with them is that they are soluble in non-polar solvents. The reason is because they don't have any kind of polarity, so they will be soluble in non-polar solvents, whereas if we try to make them soluble in the polar solvents like water, they will not be soluble. So these are the certain basic things which are about the covalently bonded molecules or compounds. Another important thing, these covalently bonded molecules or compounds, they may be having different types of intermolecular interactions that is going to decide their state or their behavior. But practically it is their intermolecular forces which is actually is mainly responsible for their state. Now let us move to the properties or certain things which are associated with these covalent bonds. Now covalent bonds, whenever are present in any molecular species, they are associated with certain basic properties like bond length, bond order, bond enthalpy, and then a very different phenomenon called resonance. So these are the few things which we must learn one by one before moving ahead.